The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
Welcome to WBGR Network, where we are doing some amazing things in the internet media broadcast arena. We would love for you to come visit our state-of-the-art studios and be a part of what we are providing to the world. Contact us today. WBGR Network, where you go, we follow. Call us at 301-429-9247.
Good evening once again, and welcome to Just Enough, your show for help, hope, and healing. I'm your host, Rick Davis, and tonight we have, I'm excited to the place where sometimes I might lose what I want to say, but y'all know how I am. I get a little crazy sometimes, but that's all right. I want to welcome you all. I want to remind you all to hit the like button, hit the share button, call somebody, tell somebody to take a look at what's going on, because you know we do something a little different every week, and we do it in a dynamic fashion the way that God would have us to do. Tonight, I want to get started. My heart is a little heavy today. I lost somebody that's very close to me, and I want to dedicate tonight's show in his honor. My cousin Butch Moore, who was my role model, my superhero. He was my Black Panther before the Black Panther. Meant everything to me, showed me a lot, taught me a lot, but most of all, he believed in me, and he showed that through his actions. And tonight, I want to make sure that I give honor where honor is due. He knows that I loved him dearly. I had an opportunity to talk to him before he passed, and we shared some laughs, we shared some stories, none of which I'm going to tell you all, because that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I'm going to press on, because I know that's what he would have me to do. And because I know that he was big on mental health, specifically addictions, due to both of our struggles, because our lives kind of mirrored each other. I know that he would want me to continue to do what it is I'm doing. One of the last things he said to me a week prior to him passing was, "Man, I'm proud of how you have turned out. You know, it couldn't have been any better." So within that spirit and in that position that I'm in right now, y'all know me, I'm getting a little emotional, but in that same spirit, we're gonna push forward, because that's what we're supposed to do. I have a few announcements before we get started. Our sponsors, the Maryland Council on Problem Gambling, you know, they still have that grant opportunity, and they're also doing a training where you can get your 24 hours and get your certification in problem gambling. They say it's for lay ministers and clergy, but it's for anybody. It's for anybody. And I would suggest that you strongly look into getting that. If not the certification, just get the information, because sometimes the information is what's going to help more than anything else. It's not about the letters, it's about what you know and how you can help somebody else. And to register for that, you go to www.marylandproblemgambling.org and fill out the registration form. It starts February 20th. They are still accepting people. And please go on and register, y'all. That'll be good information for you to have. Our other sponsor, the Restoration Outreach Community Center. We thank God for them. They were here last week, and we shared about community outreach and how it's done, and the fact that they are still doing it throughout the pandemic and doing it in a spirit of excellence. They're also going to be doing trainings throughout the year, so you might want to reach out to Pastor Stacy at the ROCCOutreach.com. That's Pastor Stacy, STACI, at therockoutreach.com, and rock is spelled ROCC. I also want to shout Park Road Community Church out for their support, and my family and friends, my cousin Lamont, as far as New Jersey, Pennsylvania, as far south as Georgia. I want to thank all of you for your continued support. Now, with that being said, now that the niceties are out of the way, this young lady sitting to my left, well, excuse me, the queen sitting on my left is none other than Aisha Tahimba, a very dear friend of mine. I met a few years ago. We worked in the same organization, and there, you all know that have worked with me, I need a therapist on every job. I need a therapist on every job, but somebody who can keep Rick from, being over here or to the left or showing up on the 6 o'clock news. And Aisha served in that capacity. But even more so, what I really appreciate about her is that her spirit just lights up a room. When she walks into a room, you know she in there. And it's not because she has to say anything. It's just who she is. I watched from a distance for a while as she walked around, and I first thought, who she thinks she is, walking around telling everybody what to do and point, But that's who she is. She's about the people. She's about people and people getting better. Some of us know that you have therapists out here that are just about dollars and cents. While money is important, and I don't belittle that, this is somebody that has the highest character, full of integrity, and will tell a joke just as quick as you can bat an eye. But you gotta be fast, because if you're not quick with it, it's gonna get by you, and you'll be waking up in the middle of the night talking about that's what she meant. But she lives and practices in Washington, D.C. This is what I like about her in her bio. See, when I ask people for bios, sometimes they give me like 3 pages, but I say a short bio. She's real succinct, but the last line in her bio is what I really like because it describes her to a T. And it says, she is a disruptor, a breaker of boundaries with a blend of realism and emotional intelligence. Now, if that don't get y'all going, nothing else will. Tonight we're supposed to be talking about Black history and mental health. And happy Black History Month, which I'm still trying to figure out why we get the shortest month of the year, and it's always interrupted with a whole bunch of other stuff. Valentine's Day, they went from President's Day to President's Week, and you got all kinds of stuff that happens in February, but we should be celebrating our history and our heritage all year long because of who we are and where we came from. And Aisha is somebody who is packed with a wealth of information. So without further ado, I'm gonna let her make her opening comments, and then we gonna jump into some stuff here.
Is there something else left to be said?
Yeah, you can say something. You can say something.
You said so much. Everything you said is true. We have a very special relationship that was formed in a very special environment. And I think at times you may have served as my therapist at least once or twice. At least once or twice. So that we could all make it through without being on the 6 o'clock news. That was, anyway, we'll move straight past that so that none of us gets hit with libel or slander. We'll move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Rick said, I do practice in Washington, D.C. I have moved from community into the private sector, and just kind of taking notice of the differences in those communities while also having very much the same kinds of issues that show up just in different ways, because I'm still out here working for Black people. So that's what I'm here for. Depathologizing mental illness. Actually, that's not even true. It's about depathologizing Blackness for me, because Blackness has been pathologized in this country, and I want us to be able to understand that we are not inherently sick just because we are Black.
Okay, let's start right there. Okay, so have you found that the belief is that we're just sick people? Because we act crazy, we shoot each other, we are prone to violence against each other.
Well, the history goes so far back.
Okay.
So far back. If we are to look at how we even got here, if you look at the psychology of supremacy versus those who are not, right? So if you are not included in supremacist ideology, then you are less than, right? So that starts the psychology right there, how they see us. And then if we are supposedly under them, we learn from them as well. So there's, we get all mixed up. But the father of American psychology actually called blackness negritude, and it was likened to leprosy. So that's if we really start looking at the way psychology and blackness even comes together, it's rooted in sickness in this society. So it will be very difficult for us to not see ourselves as sick because we've been taught that we are.
So what you're saying is, we've been taught this throughout history, and therefore we act out what it is that we've been taught.
Nature versus nurture to a degree.
Okay. Okay. So what?
Before you go for it, I'm not sure that I believe. It's not even that I'm not sure. I'm clear. I don't believe that we specifically, as a whole, behave as though we are sick. But if you look at Baldwin and others, to be in this society is to be sick, but that also means that they are sick as well.
Okay.
The
See, I told y'all. See, going deep, no issues. So, in terms of when did we become aware of actually needing mental health services? Or when did we actually say, okay, there's something else going on, or there may be an issue? Because not everybody has a mental health issue.
I would disagree.
Okay.
So I believe that mental health is a spectrum, and all of us fall on it somewhere on the spectrum at some point.
Okay.
We're traveling the spectrum over the course of our lives.
Okay.
Right? It's a matter of how much of what we consider to be illness manifests.
Okay.
Everybody is not going to manifest in a way that gets qualified specifically as ill from like a DSM-5 perspective.
Okay.
But we're all working with something.
Okay, I can say that because I got a little OCD. I got a little OCD and a few of, but I'm not.
And a few.
So here we go. Here we go.
You set yourself up.
Okay, so with that being said, so somebody hearing that would be like, wait a minute. What you mean along a spectrum? That means that somewhere along the line, I have some issues, because a lot of us like to see ourselves as not having issues, because society has set it up that way so that the stigma says something's really wrong with you, or you're a bad person, or it makes you feel less than if you have something along that spectrum. So what was somebody looking at this? They's like, wait a minute, what you mean?
Well, how do you get through life without an issue?
Very rarely do I have nothing to say. How do you get through life? You don't. You don't.
Right.
But see, it's of a personal nature now, because what you're saying is something inside of me that's not quite right.
Oh, that's not what I said.
What you saying there?
That at some point you're going to experience something.
Okay.
What you learn. So let's from a clinical perspective call them coping skills, right?
Right.
How you learn to manage those things.
Okay.
So it's the difference between whether you are scraping your face on the asphalt when something happens to you, or you learn to put your hand down and block your fall.
Okay. So let's take that a step further with the trauma piece.
Okay.
Okay, because at some point, because we know trauma has different levels. What I find as being traumatic may not be traumatic to you. Now, how is that? Let me ask you, if you can you kind of play with that a little while? How could you and I witness somebody getting shot and it doesn't affect you as much as it affects me?
You said as much as.
Yeah, as much as.
But you didn't say unaffected.
Well, that's where the spectrum comes in.
So you just answered your question.
And then she's slick with it. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. So, okay. Now, let me ask you this. How, along with Black History and mental health, now that we've established that all of us got something, y'all. All of us. So, don't be afraid. That doesn't make you crazy. That doesn't make you less than. It just says that there's some areas that we all have to work on to a certain point. It doesn't mean that everybody's at the deep end of the spectrum. It doesn't mean that everybody's at the light end. We're all at varied points. I'm going to go backwards for a minute because that's important, especially with what we're dealing with now in the pandemic. Okay. The anxiety, the loneliness, the virtual, yeah, we are overwhelmed with the virtual stuff. Mm-hmm. So how do you see, or how would you recommend someone deal with all of those things? You know, the pandemic it's brought a lot of stuff out that we didn't even know. It swung the spectrum.
Yeah.
So now where we thought we might have been on the lighter end, we're actually seeing we're closer to the middle or on the other side or closer to the other side. I ain't gonna say crazy. I use that term for me. So how do we manage all this? How do we juggle all this?
The best way we can. So I'll be honest about my own experience in all of this. I am probably on my 7th or 8th iteration of self.
Okay.
Pandemic, right?
Okay.
And comparatively speaking to a lot of people in their experience when they're talking about how this is very difficult for them, this has really not been that difficult for me. And at the same time, it has been difficult for me.
Okay.
So a lot of it is based in the fact that I'm very deliberate about how I live, right? And
okay.
So self-care, which is a term I almost hate to use at this point because it's been commodified and doesn't really tell us anything. But self-care is really important to me. And one of the foundations of self-care for me has been embracing ease. So I had to figure out, in all the things that I'm responsible for, in all the people I'm responsible to, how can I do this as easily as possible? And that has shifted several times in the process, which means that I have to be paying attention to myself, so self-awareness, right?
Okay.
And then I had to embrace creativity and flexibility. So something that I might have been doing pre-pandemic times doesn't work for me anymore. How can I shift that, right? So now I have to go and look at myself and figure out what I'm going to do in response to the things that I have going on. Something I might have tried in July doesn't work now in February of 2021,
okay.
Right? So now I have to make another shift.
Okay.
What is that going to be? The other thing is making sure you're not doing it by yourself. So if that's talking to a therapist, something else that I recommend for everyone outside of pandemic, in a pandemic, whatever. So talking to a therapist, making sure that you stay connected to the people who are important to you, who know you, who can spot different signs in you that you might not be able to spot in yourself sometimes. So if that's family, if it's friends, still finding some kind of outlet. This is an imperfect process.
Okay.
We don't know what we're doing. This is not a place that I've ever been before.
Right.
And so, again, the creativity piece allows you to be responsive to yourself. And responsiveness, to me, is much more important than reactiveness. Reactivity means that you're constantly behind the 8 ball as opposed to, like, anticipating. I know this about myself. I know these are my cycles. I know this is how these things impact me. Add this other stuff to it. What can I do? How can I work it?
Well, see, you know, I mean, part of, and we have to be very in touch with, from where I sit, we have to be very in tune with who controls the media and what comes out. Because what we're hearing is we're getting constantly bombarded with death. You know, we're getting constantly bombarded with doom and gloom, you know, and what I hear a lot of is, and this is the word that I think a lot of us miss. We hear, be sure to social distance. See, social distance. Yeah. See, now that to me, I'm just speaking for me, that says isolate.
Yeah.
But the term should be physical distance. Mm-hmm. So y'all got to pay attention to the language. Mm-hmm. Let's pay attention to the language. My pastor always says, make sure you physical distance, not socially distance. Mm-hmm. Because you know what an idle mind will do, it'll run you all over the place. So with that being said, what do you think have been the barriers of people of color in terms of participating in mental health services?
So the medical model getting connected to mental health is a huge barrier because we have such horrible access to healthcare. That's number one. And then it's who is in control in the healthcare system. So the healthcare system is largely white. As it relates to mental health, I don't remember if the numbers have changed yet, but it's about 86% white, which means there's very few of us. I think the numbers are actually higher now, if I'm not mistaken. But there are very few of us in this field. So if you are looking for safety and comfort, most likely you're not going to be thinking of talking to a white psychologist, a white psychiatrist, and trusting them with your innermost self, especially if your blackness off the rip is pathologized. So that's uncomfortable to even consider just by walking in the door. Right. Something is really wrong with me based on the way that this person theorizes.
So that leads me to say, okay, I go in because I hear a few people saying, things like, when I say, do you have a therapist? And they say, yeah, and I say, what color are they? Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, I got a white therapist. I say, how's that working for you? Because, and they say, why you say that? I said, because they see us a certain way before we walk in the door. Mm-hmm. So how is that working for you? Is it more of a patronizing thing that feeds your ego and makes you feel like something's happening that's not happening? Or are they actually giving you the feedback based on understanding your cultural background? What do you say to them? Yeah, I'm coming for you now. What do you say about the white therapist and the black client? I'm just asking a question.
You trying to set me up. No, I personally don't believe in it.
Neither do I.
I personally don't believe in it. I don't. I'm trying to be careful of what I say here. Because I don't need anybody remembering any sound bites from me based on this specific thing, because I could really go in here.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in it. I don't trust it. I don't believe it's safe. Now, there are white people who supposedly study black culture in a variety of ways. Studying and experiencing are not the same thing.
Come on. Come on. It's safe. I got you.
You might, but this is public, which means that anybody can do whatever they want to do with it. I'm trying to stay employed. Because I also have white clients. It's really not the majority of my base, but I also have white clients who, and I'm gonna keep it a buck, I don't know why they come to see me. And at times feel fetishized. But anyway, so I don't believe in it. I really don't. Without going really, really deep, right. I don't know what to say other than I don't believe in it. I don't trust it. Yeah, it just feels really unsafe to me. And you all make no mistake, we're speaking cultural perspectives, and this is the reality that we live in, especially in the climate that we live in now, where you don't know. I'll put it like this. Let's go back to the Capitol for 1 minute. You know what you saw. And then when they started talking about the professions of people who were there. Yep.
You can't tell me that there wasn't a couple of pastors hidden in there. You can't tell me that there weren't a few therapists, a few counselors hidden in there. You can't tell me that there weren't a few principals that run schools in there.
Doctors,
mm-hmm. Lawyers. Mm-hmm. You know we had
Filters.
Military. Yeah, we had. So we have to be. What we're saying is, we have to be very careful about where we go for our help. Now I know on the other end of that, there's probably been some bad experiences, but this is why you interview therapists, and this is part of the reason for this show. Because part of my aim is to introduce you all to individuals that you may be able to connect with and be able to get services from. If they can't provide it for you, I'm quite sure that they can recommend somebody that's on the same level. Because what we're not going to do here is steer somebody wrong. That's what we're not going to do. These are opinions, and our opinion matters just like everybody else's. Sometimes we hide because we don't think our voices are being heard, but this is a format for our voices to be heard. Now, that's my commercial.
Can we be clear here?
Be clear.
Though also, simply because a therapist is black does not mean that they too are good for you. So the idea of all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said about interviewing the therapist, like
Yep.
you have to know what's really important to you, what do you value, so that you can make sure that you ask the therapist questions in the same way that they're asking you questions when you go for the intake. And I'll give an example. One of my favorite examples. I had a client come in, and a young woman in her 20s, and she asked me 3 questions that helped her to identify who I was. The first was if I had children. The second one was what the last concert was that I went to. And the third one was if I was religious. And she needed to align my answers with how she identified. And my answers made her feel comfortable enough to be able to work with me. And we still work together now, probably some 2 years later. So, and I was really impressed with the fact that she was in her 20s, but she had had some experience with other therapists. And so she kind of knew the ropes a little bit. But most of the time you give people an opportunity to ask questions and they don't know what to ask. So it's also the responsibility to me of therapists to help to coach people in that first meeting on how they can figure out what's important to them in the process, even if it doesn't mean that they stay with you.
So walking in therapy, they should know what's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you there about your gender? Are you there about your sexuality? Are you there about your ethnicity? Are you there about religious practices? Are you looking for someone in the same age range as you? Like, what is it that's important to you? What, at least for starters. It may not be the whole picture, but at least for starters, what are the parts of your identity that you feel are most important when you walk into a room that you need to feel like a person is aligned with?
Wow. Okay, we're here. And if you joined us late, this is my friend Aisha Tyumba, and she is a clinical therapist. As you can tell, you know, and I'm gonna say it just like this, real black, but insightful, knowledgeable, and just somebody who's a pleasure to be around. And I know we're hitting kind of deep, but that's what this is all about. We need to know certain things. We need to be aware of certain things. This is about raising our awareness. Mm-hmm. So, now, super therapist.
Okay, let's go.
How can we tell if therapy is effective? I've been seeing you for 4 years, and I'm still seeing you. Is that legitimate?
That's kind of twofold,
okay.
if not more folds than that. So, firstly, there should be an expectation that when you decide to work with a therapist, you've discovered that you are in fact aligned and you stay with one another. There should be a treatment plan that guides what it is that you're doing. So if you don't have a treatment plan, if you don't know how you're specifically working towards your goals, if there is no referencing back to the goals that have been established, no review of whether you are in process, whether you have completed something, whether you have regressed, if you're not talking about your treatment goals, if they are not a present part of the therapeutic experience, you can't really track the movement anyway. But there's another thing to it. Sometimes you can't see your own movement, and your therapist should be able to identify for you, even if you don't talk about it, what they observe, right? But other people should be able to observe progress in you as well.
Okay.
But then the other thing, something that I talk to my clients about a lot, if you feel like something's not moving and you've been in therapy for 4 years, if you've been going consistently, bi-weekly or weekly for 4 years and there's no movement, your therapist should have put you out by now, because they should have let you know that something about your relationship is not helpful for you.
Okay.
And it could be the therapist, but it also could be that you're just not ready. So if you show up to the space performing therapy, because that's a thing, if you show up performing therapy, you're not going to have any actual movement.
Wow. I want to get to this question before we take our first break.
Okay.
Okay, I want to get to this. How has mental health treatment differed for our race than others?
I don't even know if I'm qualified to fully answer that question all the way.
Just from your perspective.
I have so many perspectives on it, though, and I think that's the difficulty in even trying to like bring it together and make it succinct. First of all, again, the access to it. So we have not had safe access. If you think about what we understood or thought we understood about therapy before, it was something that rich white people did.
Right.
It was a leisurely thing that you could do. So you had somebody you could talk to.
Right.
And it was like, you know, getting together for a bingo or parcheesi or whatever it was rich white women did on TV. And it was just another part of their support system. But we didn't have access to that. So the first part of it is being able to even know that it's available for you, right? But how available is it if in 2021 we still have such a disparity in terms of the numbers of actual black people in the field? Imagine what it was back in 1920 when we got our first black PhD in psychology.
Wow.
So how do you even know what you're supposed to do? Why would you feel like this is something that you can have available to you?
See, I told y'all.
So you couldn't afford it, and then they attached it to insurance, and you didn't have that. So.
Okay, I know we're on overload right now, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a brief break, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna stir the pot a little bit more, but make sure that you go get you something to drink. Preferably non-alcoholic, because you won't be able to handle the information. But we're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back with more Just Enough in a moment. Thanks for watching.
Are you a gospel Christian recording artist and need a platform to play your music and music videos? Well, WBGR TV and WBGR The Cup radio station has the right stage for you. On our BDS reporting station, you can be viewed and listened to on Roku TV, Fire TV. Just download the WBGR TV channel or log on to WBGRTV.com to listen to you and your favorite artists 24/7. On the radio tab, WBGR The Cup. We are a 100% brokered station, so if you want to hear your music and watch your music videos on the big screen, call today, 301-429-9247. That's 301-429-9247. Talk to an account executive today. WBGR, where you go, we follow.
And we're back to Just Enough with our guest, Aisha Tahimba, who is overwhelming us right now. well, me anyway. But I knew this was going to happen, and this is why I wanted her to be here. Because I know that she has a wealth of information. I'm just sorry we only have an hour-long show. I want to scream at some people to let y'all know we see y'all. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, Barbara Chamberlain, Anthony Watts. Hey, my sister, Pam Davis. Okay, you have a few people that are watching as well. I'm looking at some names that I don't know. Rich Moore. I see Mariam Johnson. I see. Who's come out?
My father.
That's your father. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Man, this one here. Goodness gracious alive.
He's largely responsible.
Good gracious alive. But thank you all for watching. Marquita Wise, Anita Chamberlain, Aquetta, I see you all here. Rhonda Young. Hey, how y'all doing? All right, we're going to get back into it. But thanks for watching, y'all. Remember, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the hearts. You know, just don't hit that angry symbol. Don't hit the angry symbol. Stay away from the angry symbol. We're here talking Black history and mental health. One of the things that you said before the break, and I know this isn't part of our questions, but you said we got our first PhD in 1920.
Yes.
It took that long.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Let me ask you this, because we into the a lot of us are into the reality TV scene. And we sit back and we watch Dr. Phil and we watch, Iyanla Vanzant. This is not the character assassinate. This is just a snapshot that I want us to take a look at and honestly assess ourselves. And we start to swear by them. What? And it gives a look of what people think therapy is. Is that therapy?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say no off the rip because, first of all, I don't even think Dr. Phil is a practicing clinician.
No, he isn't.
And second of all, Ms. Van Zant is not a clinician. She's not a licensed clinician either.
Right.
But it still can be confused. It is I can't speak to Dr. Phil. There is a process, perhaps a self-discovery process, perhaps I'm at a loss for words now trying to think about how Iyanla Vanzant at least tries to take you back into your origin stories as it relates to your family traumas and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't see what the follow-up is.
Right.
I don't see how people are given the skills that are supposed to help them move forward with whatever it is that they're working through. So, but it makes sense if you can live in a society that has something like a WebMD where you can diagnose yourself. Why not connect to a personality?
See, WebMD causes me problems.
It should.
Because while I understand that it may have been created to be helpful, I think it does more harm than good, because you have some of us who are hypochondriacs, and we go in there and we check off a whole bunch of stuff, and it pops up with these super serious illnesses, and it does something to us mentally. It drives the hypochondria even deeper. So I'm one that if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm gonna call the doctor. So this is what I'm gonna say to y'all: if you're feeling a certain way, call your doctor. Don't go online. I know it's convenient, but don't go online. Call your doctor, please.
But you just hit it. We live in a convenience-driven society.
Well, instant gratification.
So the convenience of being able to see parts of yourself in strangers and have a person who looks to be an authority speak to those things gives you a bit of that in the moment.
Okay.
And so then maybe you don't feel like you need to call anybody because see look at that.
Well, that's it's based on we live in an instant gratification society. We have the microwave. We don't cook anymore. People will pop things in the microwave. Why you look like that?
That's not my ministry. I'm not a microwave person. We have one, but I don't love it. Sorry, go ahead.
We want food right now. We pop a lot of pills because we want to feel good right now. We want to change how we drink a lot, we smoke a lot, we use a lot of drugs and other substances because we want to change our mood right now instead of looking at why the mood is there in the first place.
Okay, so let's keep it real black and real funky for a moment. If we look at why we have what we have, and then there's no solution for changing it, the thing you can do in the immediate is to shift the mood.
But isn't there a solution?
Is there? What do you see as root causes?
What do I see as
What do
root?
you see as root causes?
Ooh. Are you serious right now? What do I see as root causes? I see a lot of I see family of origin stuff as root causes.
Okay, and so for the family of origin, what are the root causes for the families?
Oh, you trying to go back? See, you going back now.
So what I'm saying is there are things that are outside of our control largely, right? So if we're talking about systemic abuses, oppression, repression, suppression, etc., all the things that were encapsulated under the idea of white supremacist ideology, right? What are you supposed to do with that? You can't find adequate employment. Your family is undernourished. Your housing is terrible. It's like on down the line, right? And somebody's telling you what you need to do is talk to a therapist, but you work at McDonald's and you don't have no health plan. So it might be a little easier to go ahead and get you a dime bag than it is for you to connect to something else that is only going to be a Band-Aid, just like the dime bag.
Well, I believe that's the way it's been set up.
So what do you see as solutions? I'm not saying there aren't any. I'm just curious what you see.
See, first and foremost, we have to recognize that is the real problem.
Okay.
You know, and then we have to sit back. We have to formulate a plan of action that's going to get us the things that we want. No, excuse me, that we need.
Okay.
Because if we don't at least try, then we're failing ourselves. But at every point, but see, here's where it gets interesting, because whenever we formulate a group, or somebody tries to come up with answers, they either go at it solo, or we get what I like to call, what everybody knows, the head Negro in charge syndrome. We fighting to be the voice for everybody. Some people just jump out there and think they are the voice, and it causes problems amongst those of us who are and it's always somebody with money. That's what gets me. But it leaves out those of us in this cycle of oppression, and it gives us a sense of despair. I don't really know what the solution is. I really don't. I just know that at some point, we have to start looking at ourselves and making decisions based on what it is we can do within the small scope, the narrow scope that we've been given to operate in. Because the powers that be, those are the ones that hold the key. They hold the key to all of that. And they're mainly of another color.
So when you talk about the narrow scope that we have to work within, right?
Yeah.
Even, because again, we're not all the same, right? We are not a monolith. There are many, many, many different versions of the Black experience that are happening simultaneously right now, right? There are people who are several steps beyond where we are, and then there are people who are several steps below where we are, right? And so right here, sitting in a position of privilege, you and I both were able to drive here this evening. We have a space. There is a platform. People can listen to you speak. But what you brought up about who slides in usually has some money. I'm gonna connect that to the idea of how capitalism governs things, and makes it so that if you don't have any money, you also don't have a voice. So going back to that narrow scope, who are they talking to? What are they changing? Because somebody else's narrow scope versus the scope that we see as narrow is very different. So again, going back to the father of four who works fries at the McDonald's, his locus of control is very different from my locus of control, and I can't tell him specifically what to do because I have access to far more than he has access to. Because somebody might tell him, just get yourself together, go to school. With what money?
Right.
What is he paying for it with? You understand what I'm saying?
I got you. I'm with you. So this is part of why I'm doing this. So how do we connect with those who don't have the voice to pull them in to be able to say what it is. Hey, this is what I need.
Well, I think based on the work that we do, in some way, we remain connected to the voice. And then based on what you know, you have to, one, check yourself, check your own privilege in the way that you communicate with them, right? Because there's a lot of kind of what I'll call toxic psychology that people are using now with meme culture that just kind of suggests that you can just manifest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could do a show on that. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So you can't tell him to just manifest better. That doesn't
Right.
make any sense, right? So you have to, one, check your privilege at the door, but two, taking that person's story and being able to funnel that story to people who can potentially do something for or with it. Do you know who that is? And maybe your show is part of the vehicle for that. But how do we participate in advocacy from within the field so that we can continue to uplift those voices, uplift those stories, and make sure that they remain centered and not forgotten?
One of the things that I try to do is that because I've been the working at McDonald's. I worked at Kohl's and K&G to make sure that I had enough to pay rent.
Yep.
I've lived in a room. You know, I have been in the food stamp business. You know, Medicaid, the whole nine, and I've experienced all these systems. And I look at how, first of all, the individuals are received when they go.
Yep.
That's a huge problem, because when you come into a place and you're looking for help, you're not looking for somebody to beat you down further. You're looking for somebody to speak to you, at least treat you like a human, give you some dignity, because you are a human being. You deserve dignity. I'm supposed to respect you. And then when I'm dealing with individuals, that's part of what I do. I don't sit back and on my high horse and look down, and no, I meet you right there where you are, and try to help you walk in a certain fashion or to a certain place, and connect you with what I think will be beneficial for you. I wish I could get some other folk on here that I could relay certain messages to. I'll make an effort, but in terms of the voice and how we make it happen, you just gave me a whole bunch to think about. You gave me a whole bunch to think about, because, and I hope y'all listening, because this is important, because a lot of us on this watching are in this particular boat. Okay. Oh wow. There's a comment. It says, as long as people talk stuff out, they feel like they're releasing their issues.
Releasing and solving are not the same thing.
Exactly.
But there is something to be said for making space. So if you are able to get it outside of yourself for a minute, that may provide you with just enough renewed energy to be able to get out and do one more thing towards whatever your goal is.
Wow. See, I knew we was gonna do this. We ain't really touched some of the questions. We got into a whole nother conversation. That's what she does. This is what she does.
Can I take us back just for one second? It
Please do.
What you just said about being able to look at people with human eyes and treat them with humanity. One of the things that I want to warn us against is a savior complex, and feeling like because you have reached a certain status, reaching back to people as though you are their savior, as though you are their specific example for what to do, and not beating people down with bootstrap philosophies because they don't serve.
Brings me to a question though. Have you found religion to be a problem for people being open to therapy? Yes, I did it. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. Yes, I did.
I have observed it. As a barrier for many. I think in that conversation we have to make some space for what religion has been for Black people in terms of keeping us afloat, whether it was in helpful ways or not, like truly beneficial ways to move us, but has helped to keep us afloat spiritually, give us something to look forward to, something to hope for. So even if you only had the one good dress, you got to be in community with your folks on Sunday and listen to an uplifting message that told you that things were going to be all right somewhere at some point in your life, right? I personally don't subscribe to the notion of suffer your burdens on earth so you can get to heaven.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me I'm supposed to like this. I rebuke that message. But that has helped for some people, right? But now we get to a place where it seems to be some direct contention between the mental health world and religion, specifically for Black people. I don't know if white people are dealing with this because white people have been in therapy, but particularly for Black people. And I don't know if it's because there's a battle for the souls of us. And I can't really all the way articulate that because I'm not in the religious sphere in that way. But from what I'm observing, it seems to be a battle for who gets to be in control of the collective soul of Black folks.
But see, personally, I believe that God, even if you look in the Bible, Elijah was depressed and suicidal. David suffered from some depression. There's a story in the book of Mark where there's a gentleman who lived in the cemetery and used to cut himself and talk crazy. And my thing is that while it may not happen miraculously for you, there's a process that you go through, because even in looking at those stories, especially the guy in the cemetery, there was a process. Jesus was his therapist. He had a conversation with him. There was a conversation that took place. So, and I think that that's just saying that if you listen to what God is putting on you and telling you to do, then you will seek out therapy, because I don't believe that nothing was created outside of this realm that we shouldn't be having access to. Science and religion go together for me, because if God created us, like they say, like it's been said, and like I believe, we got all this DNA and all this brain, why wouldn't he create or have somebody that was qualified to be able to help you to deal with what goes on in that body, in that brain? Why wouldn't it be somebody here? And why would it have to be something that happens miraculously? What I think a lot of times is that we hide behind religion because we don't want to be accountable for the stuff that we have done. And we hold a guilt complex and we keep ourselves in prison. Because it's like, I think I'm going to get shamed if I go to the therapist. If I share this with somebody, they're going to make me feel bad about what I've done, knowing what you've done. And it's not about that. And I tell people all the time, you won't really understand religion until you understand you. I had a social worker on here who's a therapist and a pastor. And she said something that was real insightful. It says, we are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. She said, but how can we love our neighbors when we don't love ourselves because we don't know ourselves? And that, for me, I was like, I threw it up. I said, because that's real. That's real. We haven't taken the time to really look at that, to look at where we fall on the spectrum. We haven't self-assessed enough. We haven't been honest enough with ourselves, because what we've heard is so many myths about mental illness and about mental health disorders that, like you said from the beginning, it's been pathologized that we are just jacked up, and to be anything less than that shining image that we see portrayed every day on television, on social media. If we're not like that, then we're not useful. We're not whole.
So then, based on your relationship to religion, how do you see it? Because I'm really curious. How do you see the relationship between religion and mental health, and the kind of battle that seems to be going on? Because there are a lot of pastors that I have actually heard speak against therapeutic services.
I do not ascribe to that. I ascribe to the fact that we need therapists. I ascribe to the fact that God, like I said, if God created us, He would create ways for us to be able to deal with on this earth what it is that we're dealing with. It's not going to be, everybody's not going to experience a deliverance moment where everything is great all of a sudden.
So that's based in your understanding, but also as a parishioner yourself, how do you see the disconnect? What do you, or if you can, identify what there may be in terms of the disconnect and why the faith community might be fearful of therapy?
Well, see, part of it is we've displayed Christianity as some sort of perfect notion.
Okay.
It makes you perfect. You know, and people throw scripture around like old things pass away, all things are new. No, that's after a process. You start walking in newness after you learn something different, after you start doing something different. We can't continue to sit back and use religion as a defense for us not taking care of ourselves, because I believe that God wants us to take care of ourselves. He wants us to be whole. He wants us to be able to understand how He deals with each one of us individually. So if you don't get what's right, if you don't get what's going on in your mind right, you will never understand the full message of what God is actually talking about. You're not. It's always going to be skewed. You're always going to be thinking, I gotta be perfect. This gotta be perfect. And because God said, no, God didn't say we was perfect. No, he created flawed human beings, and He knew it. So if we know that, what we have to understand is that there are going to be times when we need help from other people. God put people, we're relational. We're relational. So in those relations, that's where you get your help. You know, I have a relationship with my doctor, my medical doctor. I have a relationship with my therapist, the therapist that I talk to, and you. I have a relationship with other ministers. And there are a few pastors that I know that ascribe to, hey, wait a minute, get yourself a therapist. Don't talk to me about it. I can't handle this. And they're starting to recognize those parishioners that have these specialties that can help people a lot better than they can. Because I can't sit here with a Bible and you sitting here, you're dealing with schizoaffective disorder and you hearing stuff, and I'm trying to tell you something from the Bible, and you grab the scissors off my desk and cut me.
So what you just pointed out that surfaced as an answer, a possible answer for me, is competition. The rift is, or could potentially be, if I expose as a pastor or someone who is heading a church, if I expose my inability to do something, you may question any other messages I may have, and so maybe I need to stay at the forefront of all of the aspects of your life so that you can feel connected to whatever my sense of power is. And so maybe that's based in the ego of certain folk in the faith community. I don't know, because again, this is not my realm, but that's what just stood out based on what you said.
We're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again, and a lot sooner than she thinks. Our time is up. It's 7:00. I want to thank my friend who always forces and stretches me to places that she know I don't want to go sometimes. But I thank Aisha Tahemba for coming and being here with me. You coming back?
You just told me I was,
okay,
so I guess so.
All right.
Now that I know how to get here.
Yeah, we're going to do this again, but I want to thank you all for watching. Please, please, please like and share this video. I'm going to make sure that she has a copy of the show that she can share with her friends and family. But she's coming back because we got to do this again. Next week, I'm supposed to be doing men's mental health, but I got some thinking to do. Because we might have to come back on this conversation, because we this is how we do. I want to thank y'all for watching. Again, I'd like to thank all of you who take the time to tune in, but also you can also partner with me and donate to this ministry, this effort. You can reach out to me on my regular Facebook page, Rick Davis, or on the Just Enough page. Go to the page and like it. Give me a review. Let me know how we're doing. But if nobody told you all today, wait a minute. Do you have any closing comments?
Thank you for the invite.
Really?
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
It's been riveting. It's been riveting. You know, you doing your thing. It's been riveting. I'm glad that you brought me in. So here we go. And I missed you.
Hey, you know I missed you. So with that being said, if nobody told you all today, I love you if nobody else does, and ain't nothing you could do about it, and I don't care if you tried. So I'll see y'all next week, and love you all much.